be smiling. Come on, let's see it.
I am.
Yes,
I
there
am
you
smiling.
go.
I am
He's so
smiling.
happy because his team's up to 14th in the Premier League. Look how
out.
happy Shaka Hislop is, huh?
Oh, boy.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Newcastle 2, Manchester City 1. We've had some okay games today. We've left the best until last. This was a really good game from the neutral. The intensity I thought was great. The biggest question I've got at the end of this one, we saw 3 goals. How did we only see 3 goals in this one, Shaq?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Erling Haaland missed one early on that you would have put your mortgage on for him to score. I'd have been homeless. And then Harvey Barnes had another opportunity that I would have mortgaged your house and put that mortgage on him to score. He pulled it wide, so all of a sudden we're both homeless with nowhere to watch a game. Just as well, or didn't, and because what kind of panned on from there was a really good game of football. Those are the 2 most glaring of the chances. Walter had a free header that both a good save out of Donnarumma, don't get me wrong, but so often we've seen him for both club and country from that kind of range, anywhere between 6 and 8 yards out, dead center, and by this at this level of the game, a free header, he buries those. Good save by Donnarumma, but not one I think Baltimore ordinarily would have given him a chance to make the save off of. Outside of that, I just saw a really good game of football. 2 very good goalkeepers, both ends. You could actually make the argument that Donnarumma was the more tested of the 2. And in the end, I think Newcastle deservedly come away with all 3 points.
St. James's Park under the lights. You played there many times with the floodlights on. What makes it so special?
It's loud. And the fans, it doesn't matter to the fans what the situation is. You play well, you fight hard, you chase down lost causes, they're going to respond. You could almost hear St. James's Park from where I'm sitting, just outside of Boston in the US, when the second Harvey Barnes goal is allowed to stand after that long VAR check. When the referee pointed to the center circle, I could almost feel the pause and my hands raised because I knew exactly what that St. James's Park crowd would be like in response. And that's the beauty of it. And listen, don't get me wrong, at the same time, Newcastle haven't been great at home of late. But I feel in these nights, when big teams come to town, that's when the fans are at their best. And indeed, I think that's when the crowd is at their best. Lost thanks to an injury time winner against Liverpool, albeit a very different Liverpool earlier this season. Lost thanks to an injury time winner against Arsenal. This time around, there was no cruel twist in that regard. Newcastle held on, but as I say, I'm biased. I think it deservedly, but again, trying to be unbiased, I thought Donnarumma was the busier of the 2 goalkeepers, which suggests to me that Newcastle were fully deserving.
What did Newcastle do better today to ensure they got the 3 points?
The intensity of their game. I think Newcastle, as a team, raised their intensity against the better teams in the league. How high up the park they press, their transitions, how quickly they are able to get the ball forward and that get runners in support. And I think that's part of the beauty of Harvey Barnes. Harvey Barnes, we were talking earlier about underrated players, and it was Gibbs White at Nottingham Forest. Harvey Barnes and Jacob Murphy, for me, are in that category of incredible footballers who are desperately underrated in this league. The way that Harvey Barnes is able to join in up alongside Walter and drop back in and support, again, Murphy special mention as well, but we'll focus on Harvey Barnes because he got the 2 goals. I think is a very special player for Eddie Howe to have. Too often he's been left on the bench and used as a sub, but I think Harvey Barnes, again, special footballer, given the nod from the start and repeat. 2 goals, really, as I'd mentioned, could have been a hat-trick. Fluffed his lines and won. As a fully paid up member of the Goalkeepers Union, I will say part of that is down to the performance that Donnarumma is having. When a goalkeeper is playing that well, Harvey Barnes gifted an opportunity. I'm going to say gifted. Good football by Newcastle, but has an opportunity And the only thing in his mind is that Donnarumma, given the game he's having, I've got to put this inches inside the post. And in the end, he just kind of pulls it. And a glorious opportunity goes a begging. But then you see that with the finish, with the finish for his first goal, ball comes to him. He's not flustered. He doesn't rush it, but he knows it has to be inches inside that post, and he executes perfectly. I think that was the only way you're going to beat Donnarumma, at least to start today.
Talk to me about a professional footballer who misses a chance, or as a goalkeeper makes a mistake and then goes on to produce a worldie of a save or a goal, because it can't be easy after you've screwed up to put that away from the back of your mind.
It's about a mental toughness about you, and here's where again I give Newcastle crowd a lot of credit. They don't get down on players, even when they miss an opportunity as glaring as Harvey Barnes' first. They are supportive. They will support you to the very end. And I think as a player, recognizing the fans aren't going to turn on you, or they haven't after the opportunity, it allows you to settle in. Still, all that being said, it takes a certain mental toughness to bounce back from a goal, from a miss like that, as Harvey Barnes did here. So all credit to him for it. And again, when another opportunity presented itself, he never seemed rushed. He never seemed flustered. And kind of given that miss, you would suggest the exact opposite. The mere mortal would be. Harvey Barnes wasn't executed again to perfection.
A 7-minute spell in which 3 goals were scored, albeit it took nearly 4 minutes to confirm the third goal. Newcastle go ahead. City's response was excellent, and Ruben Diaz through the kind of legs. It took a deflection of Fabian Schär, but it was going in anyway. Did City leave themselves a little bit too open after they got the equaliser, potentially looking to get the go-ahead goal, having been behind?
So I understand City going for a winner here. I think ultimately, and I know we're still in November, but ultimately at the end of May, there'll be very thin margins between who wins this league and who finishes second. I feel certain of it. So you understand City getting the goal, feeling that they have momentum, wanting to press Newcastle. And again, kind of given where Newcastle have been, given their position in the table, given their recent form at St. James's Park, maybe they'd be excused for wanting to shut up shop and just play this out for a draw. But in the end, Newcastle kept pressing forward. Through the likes of Joe Linton defensively, I thought Bruno Guimaraes going forward was absolutely outstanding. Again, such an emotional spark for Newcastle as a team. And Newcastle just kept going forward. And then, wouldn't you know it, there's Harvey Barnes, right place, right time, yet again, after Voltemada is involved. After Bruno Guimaraes hits the crossbar, it just falls nicely to Harvey Barnes, who is as far forward as anybody else. To get creative with the finish. And Newcastle get their second. And then it's all hands to the pump defensively for Newcastle. And I thought they managed that closing stage of the game well again.
I know what you're thinking. There's no way Donaldson can get Scotland qualifying for the World Cup into a Newcastle Man City report. But yes, there is. Because a friend of mine, Keith Downey, works at Sky Sports News. And on Wednesday, he had an interview with Harvey Barnes, which was already in the diary, and it went ahead as planned. And Keith just thought, you know what? Final question, I'll just ask him. You fancy playing for Scotland at the World Cup? And Harvey Barnes, who's eligible, refused to rule it out. He's not played for England in a competitive game, so he is eligible. You played for England under 21s, then you played at a World Cup for Trinidad and Tobago. What would be your message to Scotland fans, first of all, as far as acceptance or not of Harvey Barnes, and also to Harvey Barnes, if he thinks, you know what, I might not get a game for England, but if Scotland want me, then I would go there?
Well, I'm going to sit on the fence here in that. Well, first of all, to Harvey Barnes, that's his decision to make, entirely his. And I don't get involved, or I don't pass opinion on those decisions when a player makes it for whatever reason it may be. My situation was totally different. Well, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
I did play for England as an overage player in an under 23 game, I think it was, or something we saw, sat on a bench for England International. I've only ever seen myself as Trinidad and Tobago and young. I grew up, while I was born in England, I grew up in Trinidad and Tobago. I always dreamt of playing for Trinidad and Tobago. So while my professional career kind of progressed or advanced, and there was this underlying dispute between myself and Jack Warner, I did pull on an England shirt, but I only ever wished to play for Trinidad and Tobago. And once a former coach of mine became the head coach of the senior team, I jumped at the opportunity to rejoin, and I have no regrets for it. So I say all that just to say that I really, while there are parallels to be drawn, I really don't think I'm qualified to speak to Harvey Barnes on his decision or Scotland fans on how he may be received.
Yeah, you can see why Scotland fans are. Some are saying, oh, we'll take him. Hey, we're not going to turn down. We've got a quality player. We had the same thing with Elliot Anderson, remember? And he decided, no, it's not for me. I'm English. I want to play for England. And he's gone on to do so. There are some Scotland fans that want Harvey Barnes because he'd be one of the best players in the squad, especially with the injury to Ben Gannon-Doak. And there are others that saying, well, we don't want him because he didn't want us, but now he does because we've qualified for a World Cup. Is it one of these we can see both sides of the story?
Absolutely. You again, you totally understand. You want to go into the tournament with a stronger team as you possibly can, understandably. But at the same time, again, in my own experiences. So when Trinidad and Tobago qualified in 2005, before that there were a number of players who were eligible for Trinidad and Tobago, who were eligible to their parentage to play for Trinidad and Tobago, who hadn't. And then all of a sudden, we qualified in November 2005. They make themselves available. I actually remember we played Iceland in a friendly in February 2006, and a number of those players came and played, at least part of the game in front of Leo Benaka. And in the end, Benaka went with the team that got qualified. He didn't ask any of those English-born qualifying through their parentage to join the squad. I fully applauded him for it. So again, I see both sides to this. Have some experience around one. I stand by. I don't feel I'm qualified to make that decision. But yes, I totally understand both sides of that argument, particularly the side which says this is who got us qualified. They should be rewarded.
Now, earlier today, after Chelsea won at Burnley, you and I were discussing that game. And in a since deleted interview, which has subsequently been redacted, but I think I can still remember what you said, we've gone from the Shaka rankings to the Shaka curse, because you had Liverpool and Manchester City competing behind Arsenal ahead of Chelsea. What's happened over the past few hours to make you potentially change your mind about this title race?
Well, I still feel that Manchester City are the second best team in the league, and as I said, I think this will come down to very small margins come May. Right now, I still think Arsenal are the best. They'll win it. Manchester City finish second. What should be the big change, I guess, is around Liverpool. And again, as I had mentioned, I feel when you play an early game and you have an opportunity to get 3 points, and that moves you up the table, and it has at the very least a psychological impact in the moment. In that once we finish this game, here we are in the top four as it would have been. To Chelsea, the exact opposite. They play earlier in the day and they have an opportunity to go second. They showed a certain strength psychologically in doing that. And yes, I get it. It was bullying. But you have to go out and win the game, get yourself into second place, at least for the time. That shows a mental strength. That shows a focus about them. Liverpool got to do it just after that, in moving into the top four, just to send a message to the rest of the table that, listen, we haven't been playing well at all, but you cannot write us out. And they flopped their lines desperately at home at Anfield. That says a lot about them and maybe their own struggles, that their struggles are more than just what's happening on the park or who's Arne Slot decides to pick as the starting 11. That says that as a team, psychologically, they may not be up for this fight. And ultimately, it's a fight. That for me is the big change from today. Less so about Manchester City.
You spoke earlier, Shaka, about Newcastle, big nights under the lights, getting themselves up for games. They still have to win games against teams that might be a little bit harder to get up for. Losing at West Ham was a shocker for them. I know they lost at home to Liverpool, lost at home to Arsenal, obviously big games, one of those things. But how do you ensure that you beat Manchester City and then you carry that same intensity into your next league game when you go to Goodison next weekend?
Yeah, that's
the new Everton Stadium. Sorry, if you go to Goodison, there'll be nobody there.
Yeah. That's the task for Eddie Howe here, because games like this take care of themselves. Games like Arsenal and Liverpool, which I could sit here and argue have been Newcastle's, in their best three performances, today included. But out of all those three games, you've got one win and two losses to show for it. But you played incredible football. Getting up for the big games is easy. Professional players don't need motivation for that. It's what follows, and that's the challenge for Eddie Howe here. How do you make sure and get them up for it? I'm not sure. That's why Eddie Howe's paid the big bucks.
Marseille away in the Champions League in midweek before that trip to Liverpool to face Everton in their new stadium. You've still got Vissa to come back. Dan Burn was suspended today. You've got other players to come back from injury as well. When everybody's fit and available, and Voltemada's looking the part, Newcastle, what is their glass ceiling this season?
I think Newcastle finish top 6, should finish top 5. I'm not sure if they squeeze into the top 4. So I'm going to say anywhere fifth or 6th, I think is where I see Newcastle finishing this season.
And for City, a bump in the road today, which
bump in the road. I still think City finished second in the league.
Okay, my thanks to Shaka Hislop. Busy day with Chelsea winning earlier, Nottingham Forest winning 3-0 at Liverpool with the result of the day, and then Shaka's boys Newcastle beating Manchester City by 2-1. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Remember, ESPN FC is back this evening, and it's the return of Dan Thomas as well. We wish him well, and we wish you well as well. Bye for now.